Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Hands Across the Water. Oh, another Monday blues for us. First of all, before we get tucked into all this madness, Baz, you keeping well, mate? Apart from Rangers?
No, my weekend's been fucking ruined again, so I'm not all right now.
And what about yourself, Scotty? It's great to have you on again, buddy. You're becoming a regular now. I love having you on here, mate. It's great.
I know. Have to put my name in the title, William? No, I'm fine. Been tough day today, but listen, it's the weekend was even harder. But we have to keep going forward, don't we? We can't keep looking back. But it'll be interesting because there's a lot of things we want to go for chest, isn't there?
There is, mate, indeed. I hear there's news there that the team, Russell Martin and the team have went to Loch Lomond. So, look, anything he's in charge of doesn't seem to go well. So, we'll let you know during the live show if we find if they got home safe and didn't need bringing back from the rescue services or whatever, or they've got lost or something's went wrong or they haven't brought oars with them if they've went for a swim. God knows what the hell's went on with Russell Martin in charge of them boys out there. But we'll get into it, lads. It's the same old, same old. With no wins in the league this season, with no goals from open play in the league this season, and a decent Hearts team that we feared would come to Ibrox without fear and probably play us off the park, and that's exactly what happened. It wasn't good, boss.
No, it was it was awful again, and we do another podcast of negativity and doom and the gloom comments, but at the end of the day, this is where we are, and this particular story that's gathering momentum isn't going away anytime soon. And I'm sure with the comments that we'll be getting tonight, the fury and the vent of the supporters will be in their droves. And I don't know, I don't know about you, Scott, but Jesus me, I'm losing words to what to say. Losing words. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not good, Scotty. So it's not, mate. It's a rinse and repeat sometimes, but it's getting worse, isn't it?
It's brutal, to be honest. It's absolutely brutal, and I've been going to Ibrox a long time. I'm old and used to, and well, I don't know about Baz. Maybe you, William, a bit, but I'm only kidding, Baz. And Saturday was probably the worst. It's been toxic in my time going to Ibrox for a manager. I mean, I've seen managers come and go. We all have over the years, but even getting far as back, man, I first started going. John Wallace had just finished, and John Gregor came in the first as manager. And even back as far as then, and we weren't great. The stadium wasn't sold out as much as it is now because obviously we want to win a lot. But Saturday was toxic. I've never heard this full stadium chant to somebody like this before. I've heard managers get abuse with certain sections of the ground, but in Saturday, you had 50,000 people shouting, telling Martin to do one, and it's brutal. I mean, at one point, I actually felt sorry for him because he had nowhere to hide. And to be honest with you, the football's not helping and the results aren't helping, but when you're getting that amount of stick, that is brutal for anybody.
Yeah, it was. You could hear it even across the TV as me and Baz watched it together with her father, and it was actually crazy. The atmosphere came across. You could tell. You know, I think even like I've never seen a manager at Ibrox anyway getting booed just by coming back on the pitch at halftime, like just coming out of the tunnel because all these boos. And I was like, what the hell? What's going on? And the camera pan. It was Russell Martin coming out, and you know yourself when a manager goes straight down the tunnel at the end of the game as well. You know, it's not good, Baz, when Ibrox is in this situation, but and the club. But I think if we're being totally honest here, no matter even if we could look into a crystal ball and see him changing it, I just don't think it's going to happen. Baz, as in the support, just don't like the guy anyway. I think Scotty, what you said just before we come on, buddy. You know, you feel sorry for the guy, and then you see his interview, and then you're angry again. You know, because he's so arrogant, and you're sitting there going, "You can't beat Dundee, mate. You can't beat Stephen Presley's Dundee," and you're trying to be arrogant here. It doesn't bode well for him, bad, so it doesn't.
Yeah, it's the excuses that are not helping them. You know, when you come out and you say about, you know, they're scared, they're, you know, the anxiety. Jesus me, like, I mean, these are professional footballers who have, some of these players have played in big stadiums before. They've played with successful teams before, but ibrox scares them. You know, I find that actually incredible that a manager would, or head coach, sorry, would actually come out and say something like that. And what's remarkable is if you look back past at his managerial career at Swansea and at Southampton, it's nearly word for word what he used with those previous clubs. So it's not, you can't blame Ibrox, you can't blame the fans at Ibrox for anxiety and being scared when you've said it at previous clubs that are nowhere near the stature of Rangers and are nowhere near have the same expectation levels that Rangers have. So I think basically what he's trying to do is now is he's putting the mask over his face and he's just hoping for the best. But I'm afraid to say there's only one way this is going, and for me, the sooner the better that we make the transition and remove him. It has to happen.
What's your thoughts on that, Scotty? Like, obviously, you don't want to be rinsing and repeating all the time and having to do this every single season, obviously, because, you know, if you're doing this every season, that means it's not working out. But, you know, for us as a support, we don't want that. But it's, as you see even yourself, you were at the game, the atmosphere, and it's not going to get any better. So it's not, mate, really. Like,
It's not going to get any better, William. And on Saturday, the first people to sing Martin, GTF, whatever, the first lot to sing it were the Union Bears. I know they're not the fans' favourite by a lot of people, but they were the first to sing it. But these boys are usually one who back the team 100% every week. But they were the first to sing it to the manager, and everybody else just joined in. So, I mean, his interview after the game, you're going to come out bullish, aren't you? You're going to try and defend yourself, but some of his stuff he says, he's actually reaching. He's reaching, and I heard the comment when he says, I see the players in training. That's great. I mean, players train well, but at the end of the day, we need to win matches. You can't say, but I see them doing it in training. They're not winning games. That's what he's paid for, to win football games. The training's great, but he's paid to win games, so it doesn't matter if he says, I see him doing it all through the week in training, and then at weekends we struggle. Well, that's what you're paid for, to win football matches and to get him through this. You're not doing it. You're not doing what you've been asked to do, and even if he wins a couple of games, it's just pushing the can down the, or kicking the can down the road, or the tofu down the road, as Martin would do. It's not going to help anything, because you know yourself, William and Baz, as soon as he loses a game or draws a game, this is going to come back tenfold again. So the best thing the board could do is bring in somebody else. And listen, he's not the only person that's at fault here. I mean, there's others at the club who are at fault as well, but he's obviously the one that has to carry the can at this moment in time, and he can't sack the player, so they're going to have to sack the guy who's meant to be getting the best out of him, because he's not doing it.
yeah, there's someone in the comments there as well. Baz, let me see. Remember, Brandon Barker was excellent in training. Do you remember? We heard that. Oh, we want to see him in training. That boy in training's absolutely amazing. Stick a Rangers shirt on him, fire him out at Ibrox, his balls go. And you know what I mean. And this is what's happening here to most of the squad. They just can't hack it. Like, I'm listening to stuff, and I'm sorry. Like, I'm not putting anyone, these words anxiety and stuff. There's loads of people that suffer with anxiety who have to go to their job and do their 8 to 5. It's as simple as that, or they get the sack. You know what I mean? And these guys have brought these players in to play free-flowing football, and if they've got the wrong players in, that's their problem. We did tell them, like Scotty on his own podcast, we've listened to numerous podcasts, when we're saying about building a team, you need leaders, you need winners, and you need guys that can come in, know what it's all about. And we've got a lot of players in, Baz, from like the championship level who's never won a trophy in their lives, never been at a team that demands to win every single game. Our manager's never been at a team that wins every single game. His assistants have never been at teams that are demand to win every game. Our director of football has come in, has never been at a club that demands every game, and I think or to win every game. Sorry, and I think the whole thing's built on sand, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the reality is, the only people that can change is the owners. They're the only ones that can domino effect this down. Phil Will, for me, he's been at Everton, yes, but Everton have been fighting relegation for years. So there's no expectation level there. He's never experienced anything like what Rangers is, and this is half the problem that we have had this over the years with certain high profile players that's came to Ibrox and other board people that's come up and think, right, I know what it's all about. And as soon as they walk into Ibrox and they see really the magnitude of what's actually required, they don't know how to do it. You take the likes of Steven Gerrard. When Steven Gerrard came to Rangers, he had no idea just how big Rangers actually were. And he's coming from, a lifetime at Liverpool. He admitted that himself. He didn't realise how big it was. Jermaine Defoe, they didn't realise how big it was. And it's an absolute awful travesty of what's happening at the minute. And for me, Patrick Stewart, for me, has to take a massive responsibility with this as well. I mean, he has been poor from the very offset. We had this with Clement last season, Scotty, where Patrick Stewart sat on his hands far too long before he pulled the trigger. And I think this is a carbon copy of what's happening again. Russell Martin, it's a lot earlier in his tenure than what Clement, but the signs are there already. This isn't working. It's probably not going to work. So do what you've got to do and make the change.
And also, Scotty, I'll ask you as well. Like, there's Mark Doyle puts a wee comment in there and says, if you sack Russell Martin's going to set Rangers back 2 years, new manager probably want his own players, all that stuff, But I thought, basically, I think the way it was meant to be under Patrick Stewart, or Kevin Thelwell, sorry, he's meant to pick a certain amount of players. Yes, Russell Martin will have some thoughts on that, but it's meant to be this new style that you can sort of chop and change manager, but the style of football sort of remains the same and the kind of players you're getting in. Do you think yourself, Scotty, looking at this team, is there good players in that team that another manager would get a lot more out of?
I think you look at the squad of players we've got, I think there's some talented players there. I really do. And I think some of them maybe are playing below themselves just because maybe they're playing in a system they don't like. Maybe they're playing under a manager they don't really know what to do. I think a lot of them look lost. I think he needs to simplify a lot of things they're doing. I don't think nowadays there's a lot of managers out there who like to play a system, but if it doesn't work, they stick to it. You just have to look at the shit show Man United is, and we're kind of this carbon copy up here. And it's like, I always think a manager has to get the best out of the players he's got and play to their strengths rather than the players playing to his. Because at the end of the day, you need results. Doesn't matter who you are, you need results as a football manager. So I think a manager has to come in and say, right, I'm not getting players for a system I want to play. So what players have I got here? Right, I've got players that can play this position, that position. I'll go with this. So it's the strongest for the team. At the end of the day, you do what's best for the football club. You don't do what's best for you. And I think a lot of managers have this philosophy. And I think it's not just Martin. I think there's a lot of managers out there, younger managers, just because of the way football's went. It's all this tippy-tappy stuff they want to play, keep possession, don't give the other team press and transitions and all this stuff. It's way above my head because where I was born, football was 4-4-2, get down the flies, get in the box and get a big man to head it in. Do you know what I mean? Nowadays, it's all this, let's pass it in this part of the pitch for 5-10 minutes, then we move it forward, they'll bring it back, keep possession. Don't give it, when you're out of possession, you have to be here. And I think sometimes everything's overcomplicated, even for footballers. And I know this all comes from Pep Guardiola style of play, but even Pep's changed because he knows football's evolved, whereas these guys haven't changed yet. And I think Martin is probably a victim of himself. I think he's not very adaptable. And when he tries to adapt, he just does shit at the wall and hopes whatever sticks and they can get a result, like he's done against Celtic. I thought we were vastly overcredited for that performance. I thought we were poor, but we got a point and you think, is this a turn in the corner? I didn't think we played well at all. But I thought both managers that day were happy with a point, to be honest with you. So I think the board have to make a call here, but I don't think they will. So he has to change it. He has to change it for Hibs. If he doesn't, then it's going to be more like it was on Saturday, apart from the stadium might not be as full.
Yeah, like the Hibs game, it'll be interesting to see him. He turn up to that. Obviously, with with the cups, that's a different scenario. It's not like you paid your season ticket. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many actually go to that match. And at the minute, Baz, it doesn't look to be too many will turn up. They'll probably want to sit in the house. I called into my dad today, and this is just like my dad's like yourselves, a proper Rangers man, loves the club. Called in to see him today because he looked after the daughters after coming out of school. Like as soon as I come in the house, is Russell Martin fucking sacked yet? You know what I mean? That's the first thing he wanted to know. Unfortunately, not. He's still here. But do you know what I mean? But that there's just sort of the over. You see it on social media. You'll see it in the older version of art and social media. Everyone just seems done bad, don't they? And I just can't believe we're at this stage again. But I'm sitting there looking even the likes of Dundee. I think Dundee have a game at Dens Park, a home match, and Aberdeen have 2 away games, both before we play another match. So it is possible that Rangers could be bottom of the league before we kick a ball again. And are we guaranteed to go to Livingston, David Martindale's place, and go and get 3 points? Not looking likely. But that's the situation we're in, Baz.
But when you put it like that, there, it's a stark reality. It's not like it's fuck me, that's brutal. You made me more depressed than what I was before I come out with that. But but Scott, that is the reality, isn't it? I mean, we could be bottom of the league. And yes, Russell might be used to that, being at Southampton and being bottom of the league. He might enjoy sort of, keeping the rest up. But at Rangers Football Club, that is totally unacceptable. To be even contemplating this, even at this early stage of the season, that after we go to another league game, we could potentially be bottom of the SPFL. I don't know what the owners and the board need to know anymore to know that this is not right. This is totally gone. Like, I haven't seen this. Like, even when Pedro Cachina was in charge, it was never as bad as this. Bill, Clement, the list is endless. No, I've never seen a manager that the fans have wanted out so quickly in my life. And what doesn't help Russell Martin is, I think his engagement with the press till the fans is absolutely poor as well. He just doesn't get it. He might have played up at Rangers and played a few games. That's about it. But I don't think he gets it. He doesn't get what the fans. I know he gets it. They don't want him there. But I just don't think he gets the ethos of Rangers at all. For me, he talks complete shit. I have to be honest. I'm calling it as it is. It's pure crap. I remember. You see when Clement was talking, I couldn't understand what he was saying. That's okay, because I didn't really understand his accent. But Russell Martin, I hear clearly what he's saying, and that's even worse.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I'll say, and we're not going to the Clement situation, right? Because obviously that guy was with all the crack, it didn't work out. But I could see why they brought him in, because they looked at it and they went, look, 3 Belgian titles, 2 of them were with 2 different clubs and stuff, and you're like, okay, you can see the stock there, you can understand why. Maybe you could bring that the R division stuff for her, some sort of a winning mentality, Scotty. But Russell Martin doesn't even have that in his locker, to bring that the ibrox. He's, in my opinion, he's never been anywhere really that as I say, that demand to win. They had one decent season with Southampton in the Championship, fair enough, got them promoted, which is great. And then obviously it was dismal after that when they got the Premier League, and he wouldn't change his style of play. But Kevin Bellwell also told us, Scotty, at the press conference, all the support said we didn't want them. I think that's, we all done our polls and stuff, nobody wanted them. But then once the club makes a decision, the first thing you do as a Rangers fan, you go, right, okay, suck it up, here we go. We're on the Russell Martin train, and that's just what you do as a supporter. And Kevin Bellwell tells us it's all this fast, free-flowing football attacking style. That's why we brought him in. I'm not seeing that. As I said at the start, we're a team that scored no goals from open play. We're a possibility of being bottom of the league, and we have scored equal at least goals. I think Aberdeen haven't scored a goal. We're equal at least goals scored with Dundee, Stephen Presley's side. How do you survive this? And I think if the problem, I don't know if you think I'm right here, Scotty, I think the problem is as well for the 49ers, mate, the longer this goes on, the more that the support's going to start pointing the fingers away from Russell Martin and pointing them at every other direction, and it will eventually go up to them and going, right, you are the man in charge here. You have to make a decision. You're the owners of this club. You told us you were only going to see us, only going to talk to us when things are going wrong. Well, fuck me, if they're not going wrong now, Scotty, when are we going to hear from them? How bad does it need to get?
Well, according to the papers today, William, I totally agree with you, but the papers today, you don't know what's true in the papers. You don't know with yourself, the mainstream media, half the stuff he reads a lie, but it's supposed to be Kevin has already spoke to Martin and says they're happy giving him more time, and time to me's not getting that ran out. I mean, listen, he could turn it around, but everybody watching this and us people know there's a 99.9% chance he doesn't. But the owners aren't really football men, are they? They've put guys in charge who they think are football men. You've got Stenson, you've got Stewart, who was at Man United probably through, well, Man United are still kind of screwed up, but he was there when that kind of started, so he knows how to make a shit show of a football club, and he's helping doing it with us. Farewell to me was always an odd call because he was at Wolves, and he never really done anything for me at Wolves, player-wise, bringing players in, and he went to Everton, and I know they're always kind of fighting relegation, but even some of the players he brought in didn't really set the head on fire. And he's come up here, and I think some of the things he's done, he looks at players that he knows, which everybody does. So looking at players from obviously the English market, and I think some of these guys are decent footballers. But you know yourself, coming Rangers, you have to hit the ground running because you can sometimes only get 45 minutes in Rangers shot, and if you don't produce the goods, people think you're crap. So it was always going to be hard for any new manager coming in, especially with the pressure of the takeover, and we were all up here in the high. So as soon as somebody come in and you lose a couple, you're back down to here. But this is probably worse than anyone could have imagined. Consider how much money we've spent, and how much we brought a lot of money in, don't get me wrong, but how much money outlay we spent is at a big outlay, Martin.
Yeah.
And a lot of these players, some will turn out, probably leave, because that's what happens with transfers. Not everybody's a success, but I do think a lot of these guys will be success at a football club, but I don't think it'll be a success under that manager.
Yeah, that's fair comments there, Scotty. Yeah, another thing, but as I say, because we have given Russell Martin a lot of stick, and we will probably give him a lot more as the show goes on. But I just want to ask the question, Baz, as well. Me and you were cracking up with as watching the game ourselves, and we were seeing Hearts from the first minute win every 50-50. Every time there was a loose ball, they were on it first because they wanted it more. And that's desire as well. Now, we can talk about Russell Martin, set up all that stuff. Of course you can, and you can get torn into that. But we have to be fair as well. Individually, player-wise, you're no matter if whether you like the guy you're working for or not, you've got boys in the stands, 50,000 Rangers fans there, and you have to put the effort in. And it's sad to see a Hearts team want it more than us all over the pitch, all game, Baz.
Well, you've also got a problem is if you look at half time, the two players that got substituted are both loan players. They're players that won't be at Ibrox next season. And that's a big problem with some of the loan players you bring in. The desire's not there. They're not playing for the badge. They're not playing for the supporters. They're playing to try and enhance their own career for their parent club. That's it. And to be fair, both of the players that come off were very poor the first half. I wasn't actually that surprised that both of them come off. But if you look at the Hearts players, there's a different ethos in their mindset. They're wearing the Hearts badge. They're playing for the travel and support. They're fighting every second ball. We just don't seem to be able to do that. My worry is the leadership group that's meant to be at Rangers. And who tries to fire these players up before they go out onto the pitch? Who's talking to them? Surely the leadership group before the players come in go, lads, it's been a shit season, but you just need to go out here and do something. Get them riled up, get the fucking music popping, get them in a good spirits, send them onto the pitch, get them ready to fire. It doesn't seem to be that there's anything happening there. So I have a problem with the leadership group, bar Jack Butland, the leadership group, the manager, the coaching staff, and the board. And I don't want to say too much about the owners because they've got plenty of money and we don't want to piss them off. But
they're pissing me off.
Well, at the minute, but we need their money at the minute. That's the problem. But do you know where I'm coming from? It's filtering. It seems to be filtering right down the chain, and that includes the players, the leadership group of the players. I mean, you look at John Suter. You don't see John Suter crying at anybody and shouting at players and grabbing them by the scruff and telling them, "Come on, lads, we need to get this going." Or Tavernier doesn't do it. Or the only player that does it was Nico Raskin, and he's not bloody available. So there's a major issue for me. And you know what pisses me off the most, and what really annoying me is, I know it's slightly off it, is players like Curtis sitting on the bench, who every time he gets onto that pitch, he feels that Rangers blood. He feels that shirt on his back, and he gives 110%, and he fights for every ball, and he looks like he can actually score a goal. The likes of Cameron, I would say Barn tries his best. He does. He gives 100%. But when you look around the rest of the team, Miovski now, I would say Miovski does a lot of running, but nobody's getting the ball to him. It's just my issue is with some of the lone players. I just don't think they are. I don't think they have the heart that what it requires to play for Rangers.
Yeah, it's probably a fair comment there, Scotty, isn't it? But what also doesn't help Russell Martin either is Barry saying our players having to come off and stuff. Now, one of the very, very few positives we have under Russell Martin is you can say, look, see how wee lad there from Gassama who come up. He looks pretty good on the left-hand side, doesn't he? He does a lot of good work, scored a lot of good goals in Europe. Just literally grabbed that team by the scruff and got them through a few ties. We should have been out, Panathinaikos and stuff, and saved us again when we look like we're maybe going to lose our goal lead. The Pilsen as well when he scored that goal. And then the biggest game of the season in the league against Celtic, he plays him on the right while he's playing, brings in Moore, who likes to prefers to play on the right, and so he plays him there, switches them around, sees, and for me it doesn't work. I said the Baz straight, we're both saying here's me not working, get Gassama on the left side, get Atman on to the right and stop pissing about. Then he starts against Hearts with the exact same scenario. Then we're seeing Gassama at the second half playing well, doing a lot of good stuff. First time he was really in the game. And I'm sitting there going, he's not helping us. Even silly decisions like that, Scotty, everyone can see that that's wrong, but it takes Russell Martin a game and a half to be able to correct that, which doesn't bode well either.
It doesn't, William, no. All I'll say is the thing with Mikey Moore is you don't know if for some reason the agreement with Spurs he has to play. So you don't know if that's out with Russell Martin's hands. I could be totally wrong, but I might be right. So, because you don't sign somebody for Spurs, where I suppose fee £1 million to Spurs and bring him up here, and he's going to be, Spurs have probably said he has to play some amount of games, so that could be out with the manager's hands. But like I said before, it might not be. Maybe I'm wrong here. But if it isn't, then I agree with you. I think Gassama's on the wrong side. I think Atman was on the wrong side. I think I've said it before. Finlay Curtis is the best finisher we've got at Ibrox. He's the best. Yeah. He's such a clean striker of the ball. He knows where the goal is. And I know folk will say, well, he scored a lot in the academy. He did, but at that level, he knew where the goal is. And as he got older, he still knows where the goal is. And you see it when he's scored a couple of goals this season. He doesn't hesitate. He just bangs and he usually hits the target. So to leave something like that out altogether, especially when he's playing really well, it's mind-boggling. I just don't think it. I don't think Martin's actually got a clue, to be honest with you, about what's his best team, what's his best system. I don't think he does, and I think at the end of the day he will struggle. Do you know what I mean? I've seen it on Saturday. Miovski's making so many intelligent runs, but there's no one playing the ball through the lines, no one playing the ball to him, because to me they've been told not to. They've been told to play a certain way. Because if you're a footballer, and you've seen it with Rothwell, I know Rothwell's got a lot of stack in Bass in it because he watched probably more Leeds than I did, but Rothwell with Leeds, every time I get a ball, his first instinct was to turn and go forward with a pass.
Yeah.
The Rangers, it isn't. It's to go sideways or back. I mean, Suter gets more touches than anybody, and John Suter's a decent defender, as you've seen with Scotland, as you've seen with Rangers in the past, but he's no Baresi on the ball. He just can't pick a pass like that, so a lot of teams read them, and Hearts never pressed us on Saturday that well. I know they said they did, but they didn't. Like they weren't running at us pressing us constantly. Hearts just sat with discipline and a shape, and they said to us, "You make a mistake first," and we did. But when they got the ball, Hearts went like that up the park with Shanklin, with that young kid Braga, with a couple others, and what Harry Milne played really well for Hearts. But they got bodies forward. That's what we don't do. Miovski was playing up himself on Saturday. He didn't get any support whatsoever yet. I heard people shouting, "He's shite, why did we sign him?" The boy's up there himself. How can he be what's he meant to do? He's getting nobody's creating for him, he's getting no support. That's what I mean. I think some of these players are better and they're actually we actually see him because of where this formation is. And I think before I stop speaking and let you back in, I think Tavernier's press I was telling. I think you can say, now, I listen, we all know Tav's probably been here longer than he should be, but I think that post match when he spoke, I think that was telling. I think he's really, really upset, and I think you can see it because he never really backed the manager. I'm just reading through the lines here, but I don't think he backed the manager, but I think he's feeling really, really frustrated. So I think the Nico Raskin thing, whatever the problem is, you either come out and tell the fans what actually happened, or you put him back in the side. Because, and I'm not sitting here saying Nico Raskin's the best player in the world, but he's our best midfielder, put it that way. And if he's missing, then tell us why. Don't just say the players need to trust him, we need to trust him. Tell us why you don't trust him. Because there's no point having a guy sit in the stand when we're getting pumped every week. That's pointless. At least if he's playing there and you can say, well, he's not helped us either. But sitting in the stand and you're struggling, it's like you're not helping yourself. Because at the end of the day, the thing that comes first for me is the team and results. It's not any person, it's not any individual or any person, no player, no manager, it's a team. And I've always said, I don't care who the manager is or the players are. I just want Rangers to win games of football. And that's not happening at all.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scotty. He makes Baz. We'll go on to that one. The Nico Raskin situation. Now, obviously, Nico goes to the Belgium side, playing with some of the best players in the world, bags himself a goal, playing well. Fair enough. The Old Firm game, a point was made. He was put out of the team for the squad and stuff. Then Kevin Fell will come out afterwards and interview says, "Look, we're going to have a chat with Nico when he comes back as him and Russell Martin and things will be sorted, whatever, and that's it." The easiest thing would have been to do is, even if fair enough, if he had said, look, you're back in the squad. You're maybe not going to start this game first 45, but you'll be brought on. Barron played well in the Old Firm as well. He could have said all that stuff in his interview. I can't take Barron out just for talk's sake. He played very well. I have to give him another 40. But the standards at Rangers, if he's not doing well in the pits for Nico, will come on, whatever, and iron this out and get it done. Then it would have been over with. It wouldn't have been a discussion. But all this shite talk about not being able to trust him and stuff, it just stirs the pot again, and he doesn't help himself there, Baz, does he? We've seen Rothwell coming on for Barney. Rothwell, to be fair, probably one of his best games, but it's our luck that he gets injured. That's just the way it goes at Rangers, as we know. And then you're looking at your bench going, right, who are we putting on here? Where's your centre defence midfielder here or whatever to stick it on? And you're looking in the bench and Nico's sitting there, not in the squad, as we know. Baffling decisions, and it needs sorted, but it proves again that behind the scenes, the arrogance, it's probably coming out in Russell Martin again. He just doesn't help himself.
Well, the biggest problem Martin has is the majority of the support love Nico Raskin and hate him. So that's his biggest problem that he has, because the support will always lean towards Nico Raskin over Russell Martin. That's just the way it is. And the fact that Russell Martin's putting a team out without him and the results are still piss poor isn't helping his cause whatsoever. What I would say is, with Joe Rothwell, if this injury is a wee bit more long-term, maybe say 3 or 4 weeks, it actually gives Russell Martin a very good chance of introducing him very quickly outside his way of punishing Nico Raskin, but saying, look, Joe Rothwell's injured, I need another defensive midfielder in here, and I've had to bring Nico back in. That's an easy step for Russell to do, and would take the pressure off him a wee bit. If he still doesn't do that and Joe Rothwell is injured, I think that could be the final straw that breaks the camel's back for the support, because Nico Raskin's loved. And I know there's all this crap that's been going about leaked text messages and nonsense stuff going about Nico Raskin. And what amazes me is the Rangers Football Club have allowed the head coach to stir up that sort of undocumented rumours and haven't come out and actually, you're right, Scott, haven't come out and actually said what it is. Because rumour circulation is brutal, and Nico Raskin shouldn't be subjected to something that he possibly hasn't done. I mean, this could be Nico Raskin coming in to the changing room and challenging Martin. It could be him undermining Martin in the changing room, and not something about leaked text messages and leaked team sheets. Because I think that's a very dangerous road that Rangers are allowing their star player, and he is their star player, to be subjected to. I think that's really wrong. And my opinion is, you know, we've seen it years going by with certain managers. We had certain players who were difficult players to manage, but that's what you're there for. You're there to mediate that. You know, if you're working in a workplace and you've got bad staff, you still have to manage them. You still have to do your best with them. And I think Russell Martin, as unpopular as he is at the minute, and what's happening with Nico Raskin, even though we don't fully know what it is, it just gives me it's a bad taste in my mouth, and I really don't like it.
And that's another thing, Scotty, too, you know, like you're talking about, you know, maybe a bad attitude or whatever, gurning at the manager and stuff. Like anyone you've ever, any Rangers legend who ever played with Barry Ferguson, they always say, like, gurniest wee shite there ever was Barry Ferguson in that dressing. Always gurning. Didn't matter if you won 2-0, he was gurning about, there was something to gurn about, you know, someone didn't do something, or fucking, why didn't you pass that? I was free at that, you know. But sometimes being that attitude isn't a bad thing. Rangers have actually lacked that. Rangers lack people that don't want subpar nonsense at the club. And it seems to be, it's the way Russell Martin, I don't know the guy personally. I can only see what I see from actions and from speaking in interviews. And it seems to be the kind of person that is, you know, if likes of Nico's want this is shit, or whether it's not working or whatever, he just seems like the dismissive type. It's just about like, tell you what, fuck out. You're out of the squad. You don't like it, you're gone. You can't manage players like that, Scott.
I don't think it's just Nico and Russell Martin. I think if you look at modern football in general, there's a lot of football players like that. There's a lot of football players who can give it out but don't like any abuse back, and they'll go in a half or they'll ask for a move and stuff like that. You've seen it in the English Premiership recently with the boy for Newcastle at Liverpool and stuff like that. So I think it's modern football where people think they're more important to the club or more power than they actually have. But listen, if Nico Raskin is meant to like tactics to Bruges and team sheets and whatever else, then my opinion, he should have left the club. The club should have sold him in the window and said, listen, you can't be doing that. If you leak any tactics to opposition, you should be out the door. So for me, that he's not out the door, then that can't be true. Because if it was, like I said, he should have been away. So I just think they've had a couple of bad words, and when you don't like everybody you work with, Baz is right. And I remember when David Cooper played, David Cooper moaned all the time. That's why his book was called The Moody Boy. He was always moaning in the park. But you need that moaning in the dressing room. You need that in your players, because in the day, everybody wants to win. Fans want to win. All football players want to win. And it's when there's obviously a line where maybe they earn too much money, that winning mentality maybe leaves them a bit, but you should always want to win as a sports star at any sport, to be honest with you. But I think it'd be a lot easier if Raskin, he won't come out and say it, obviously he probably advised on it, but if the club just came out and said, this is what happened, and we'll put it to the side and we'll move on for the benefit of the club, the benefit of the team. But he left it too open for me with him, like you said, William, with the trust issues and all that. That just made it more intriguing for the fans, asking what has actually happened. He could have put that under the bed, put it to bed and says, we've done well against Celtic, Nico's back training, but we're back in the squad soon because other boys are want to give them opportunity to go on more because they played really well. And that's all I had to say, and it wouldn't have been questioned, but he never said that. But I just don't feel the players trust him. I don't. When you watch Rangers play, there's something lacking. I think, and I could be totally wrong here, but see, Derek McInnes was a manager, like I said to you earlier, or even Barry Ferguson, that team would be 100% better in every department, because they'd be given basic instructions of what to do, and you would see it fight. So I think you can't blame the players, but to me, it's coming for the manager, because he's had previous at other clubs, and Baz said it earlier, it's similar issues, similar words he uses. So it's not just a new thing with Rangers, but a new thing with Martin either, because he seems to have, like I said earlier, previous with other teams, the same kind of issues. So maybe that's just Russell Martin's managerial style. And if that's the case, that's fine, but it doesn't suit a Rangers Football Club, in my opinion.
Yeah, Scotty said it. Like a lot of the same phrases, Baz. The anxiety word, I think, come up in every single club he's been at. You know, sometimes you're not allowed to look at yourself. Then who's giving these players anxiety? You and your shitty tactics that they can't play. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to do this Premier League style of football at the elite top. You know, we've said Pep and I'll try all this. whatever club he's been at, and now been at Rangers, we just don't have the money to bring in the standard of players that can play the standard of the type of football he wants. Like John Shooter coming out with a ball and trying to pass, and then we wonder when he loses it, and we're all going mad at him. And we're like, well, like he's big John Shooter, he's a big good Scottish defender, seeds defender. We see him playing for Scotland International all the time, no matter who they're playing. If they're knocking the doors in, he's good at that. Always plays well in that sort of area of the pitch. He's not the kind of player to come out with a ball and skin people and start an attack off. But again, it's him and Giga seem to have the ball the most. They do most of the passes together. But the likes of Miowski there, Baz, we can't even pass judgment on that guy. We know he's a good player. We've seen him before. We can't pass judgment on any of the games Danito's played. We can't pass any judgment on any of the games Desser's played this season before he left, because the system that we're playing, the strikers just don't get chances, and it's proved when you haven't scored any goals from open play. But the question is, Baz, I keep hitting you with these hard ones, but the fear factor again. Rangers, I say, could be bottom of the league before we start our next match, but we haven't been to Batodry yet. We haven't been to Easter Road yet. We haven't been to Tynecastle yet. We haven't been to Tannadice. We haven't been to their stadium across the city. There's a lot of big tests to come in this league. We haven't had any big tests really, apart from the Old Firm match, and it was a very lukewarm, poor Celtic side who's having their own troubles. And again, we couldn't get a goal in that one. So I can't see where this is going to get better, even when you look at all the places we've still to go past.
The reality is, when the current management team's there, it won't get any better. They might nick a win. I mean, look how bad that sounds. We might nick a win. We might, we're not going to go on a run with Russell Martin. It's not going to happen. There's only one option here, and that is for him to go. It has to happen. The board are reluctant to do it for whatever reason. We've heard rumours that Phil Well isn't happy. If Martin was to go, he would go. Well, that's a great bonus, isn't it? Like, the 2 hits in the 1 go. Get him out, both of them, and Patrick Stewart, the 3. Get the 3 Stooges out. But the thing about it is, he talks about anxiety, but Scotty, what about the anxiety of every paying supporter that goes through the turnstiles at Ibrox every week at the minute? And the anxiety that the supporters are having going into the match, putting their hard-earned money to go in to watch these guys play a football match, and coming out with absolutely no value for money whatsoever, nothing. And I think the fact that, and by the way, there's a lot of these boys coming from over here. They're traveling at 3 a.m. They're not getting back to 3 a.m, but possibly a 24-hour trip. They're still going every Saturday. They're still trying to support the team. They've been doing it. Boys from down in England, all the boys in Scotland and further afield. What about the anxiety all the supporters have? I think it's ridiculous to come out with the anxiety of players who are getting multiple £thousands a week into their bank accounts and flashy cars and whatever they're doing, have anxiety playing at Ibrox. To me, that's shocking. That's the worst statement I think I've heard. I think it's poor. I really do. There's nothing more I can say until he goes, because I'll be advocating it until he does, because this is a roundabout. It's just going back round to the exact same position. You spin the wheel, it ends up back round the same position. Nothing's going to change.
You'll need to say something if you're on a podcast, Baz, or else I'll just have to get a cardboard cutout of you holding up Russell Martin out. Barry's on protest until Russell goes.
Silent protest.
But Scotty, what's your thoughts on the likes of the Hibs game, mate? Coming up, Hibs. I've watched them in a few European matches and stuff. They've done pretty well. Very good attacking side. We're unlucky a few times. But if we're not creating chances, which we aren't, and we're not scoring from open play, but I've got a Hibs team there that we know can hurt us, and they've got players that have hurt us time and time again, the likes of Boyle and all them, and so you've always run amok. We could be out of the cup here, mate. We could be out of the league. You could be sitting here very quickly thinking, fuck, all we have is the Scottish Cup, that quick. Like, it could go that way, mate. And I just don't see how we go against Hibs and play any better, because there's not even wee small shoots. And you could, at least if we could hang on to something to go, well, at least this is working, but that part of the game's shite and we know that, but it's just all poor. We're a team that makes goals and can't score. This could be a big one against Hibs that we could lose. I don't think he's going anywhere, mate, at least until that game's played.
No, I don't think he's going anywhere either. William, I think he's here for a wee while yet. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I do think he's here for a while yet. Listen, Hibs, I've watched them a few times, like you say, especially in Europe, and I thought they'd done okay. I'm not going to go overboard and say that that's a tremendous side, but one thing they do is they score goals. They concede a lot of goals as well, but they score goals. And we concede a lot of goals, but we don't score goals. So if I'm Hibs and I'm David Gray, I'm coming to Ibrox on Saturday full of confidence. Because why wouldn't you be? If you watch the last 3-4 Rangers games, you're like, we can beat them. Because they're not great. We can beat them. And if they go 1 down, that stadium, if you score first, Hibs, you'll say to his players, if you score first, that stadium's turning. The players will shut themselves and the manager's getting abused. I mean, it's no one really for Hibs. If we beat Hibs, it's probably more on them than it is on us because they'll be devastated because this is probably the best time to play Rangers. Because if the players are suffering from anxiety and we go 1 down, you'll see the ones that are want to hide and you'll see the ones that don't hide. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I think the players are lost. I think the players, personally, I think some have chucked it playing for them. I know that's not great, but as a professional, sometimes you'll still play the game, but you're not giving that extra 10% because you don't want that guy in the job. And listen, like Baz mentioned earlier, we don't always like people we work with. And the sportsman's totally different from what I do or whatever else. So I get that when you work with folk you don't like, but you still try and do your job. But if for somebody you don't really like and he gives you instructions, you're like to yourself, fuck him, I'm going to do what he tells me. And it doesn't matter how much you get paid. If you don't like somebody personally, you don't know what you would do. So no, I think Hibs should be coming to Rangers on Saturday full of confidence. And I fear for us. I do. I mean, I've got my ticket for Saturday already, but I'm actually 50-50. Do I watch it at the stadium or do I just sit in the living room and have a couple of beers and watch it? And now I would never be like that. I would always want to go to the football. But just this moment in time, it's getting to a point where I enjoy my club. I love my club and I want to see them winning, but I'm not enjoying watching them because I don't see anything there. So I'm 50-50, but I'll probably come Saturday morning, I'll probably see I'm going to go. But it's just getting to that stage. I've never been like that before. I always want to go. When Clement was there, people were saying I'll boycott. I was like, no, I'm still going to go. But for some reason, I'm not enjoying this whatsoever. At least with Clement in European matches and stuff, you always have a wee bit of hope. But I'm leaving any hope with this team at the moment because every team we go and play, I'm like, I hope will we get a draw, and I mind will we get a win.
Yeah, correct, mate. Well, I've left this to 47 minutes. 47 minutes, coming up to 48 minutes, because I don't want anyone coming on saying you're making excuses, and this is no excuses whatsoever, but I will ask is this with Baz and Scotty. I want you answered after Baz as well, mate. Some of the decisions in the game, now we didn't deserve to win. We were crap. Hearts were the better team. Wanted the more. Doesn't matter. Then it probably still would on the win anyway. So I'm no excuses that way. But I want to ask you the question. And some of the decisions was crazy. Shanklin, handball. You could clearly see it. I think even after he scored a goal, you could see him looking at his player and go while he was celebrating, as if to say, "Don't celebrate too much here, lads." It was a handball. He says it twice. He knew himself it was. He said afterwards in an interview that it was handball. It wasn't flagged up. Then the goal one of the goals we did get, goalkeeper was just fuck me. You were talking about challenging the goalkeeper. For me, that was just a normal 50-50, and we should have got that goal there and the penalty as well. I haven't had actually a proper look at that penalty, but it does look a wee bit soft. What did you think of some of the decisions, Baz? But as I say, this is no excuse for that Rangers team. This is just us looking at maybe a bigger picture here. We've seen it for a few seasons.
The decisions were bog rotten. They were absolutely awful. And the reason why we should be talking about it is, and the reason why we should be challenging it is, because if the inevitable does happen and our manager gets the kick down the road, there's going to be a new manager coming in, and he needs to come in to a league where there's fairness and transparency amongst all the clubs, not just one or two in particular clubs that seem to get decisions all the time, and we don't. Things we don't get the rub of the green, as they would say. I mean, Shanklin said after the game, he's actually said after the game that he was surprised it was allowed. You know, that's how farcical it is with that. With the goal, James Tavernier gets booked gets a yellow card. Our captain gets a yellow card for challenging a referee on a decision. And I thought the rules were that was the captain. The captain was the only person allowed to go to the referee to speak his mind and challenge a decision. He does it, gets a yellow card, and is told to walk on. It's farcical. And then you see the game the next day, and the penalty that was awarded for them as across the city, it was absolutely ridiculous. So there's unfairness. It doesn't take away from what's happening at Rangers right at this minute in time. But what I'm saying is Rangers should be coming out, and if there is going to be a new coach into that club, that they're playing in a fairness of league. And at the minute, for me personally, there's definitely daggers out at Rangers in lots of decisions. I think it's so poor. The SPFL, the refereeing standard across Europe is diabolical. The VAR is not fit for purpose. It's a waste of time. It's absolutely a waste of time, and it needs to be addressed. But the only way it's going to be addressed is the majority of the SPFL clubs need to get together and challenge the SFA on this matter and come as a collective group and really hammer home that decisions need to be made and need to be made correctly. No point talking. You see, too many times do we hear this after games. That should have been a penalty, or that shouldn't have been a penalty, or that should have been a goal, that shouldn't have been a goal. It's too late. The damage is done. You know, and yes, you're right, William. It doesn't take away from what's happening to Rangers, but it is still a very important topic that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Scotty? Some of this, as I said, that's why we left it so late on, because you don't want people saying, "Oh, we know there's no excuses here." But decisions wise, I don't know what you thought about them, Scotty, but there were some for me were poor.
The decisions, I think we could go back to about even before Gerrard came in. Listen, as a club in general, we've not spoke out about decisions against us for years. Not just Saturday, for years. And it's time we did, but we let it go on and on and on because we always said, oh, what comes around goes around, all that nonsense. But you know yourself, Baz, you're saying all the clubs should get together. One club won't, because one club gets all the decisions. Yeah. I'm not sitting here blowed into glasses. You ask Kilmarnock fans, you ask other fans, one club gets all the decisions, other clubs don't. The rest of the clubs are arguing with each other and arguing with refs and VAR, but one club gets all the decisions because they've been on about it for so long. They had documentaries and everything going on about it, so they eventually get their way. Other clubs don't. I mean, you seen this at one Hibs game where the ball hit the guy's foot and came up, hit his arm. Hibs got a penalty. You seen it at a weekend, but then you see another club do it and it's not a penalty. So it's like, so that's when you watch your ref watch and he says it's not a penalty for he said it's not a thing, me. But if ref watch can say that in Sky Studio, we've got a referee in a park, you've got guys in a van or a studio somewhere, they both say it is. So the VAR is not the issue, it's people who are operating VAR's issue. The referees have always been poor, they've always been poor. But the people who are operating VAR, when you've had some of the audio, it's like they're talking to each other, but nobody knows what way to go with it. I mean, the handball rule, I don't get used to it, but I think the handball rule's bollocks. Handball to me is when it hits your hand, right? See when it hits anybody here? That's accidental unless you stick your arm out. When you're playing football, you can't run with your arms down at your side. You also have to move them, even if you're going for possession or jumping up, your arms are always moving. So if it hits you accidentally, that's fine by me. But if you stick your arm out or you actually move your arm towards the ball, then that's what I'll call a handball. Some of them are just nonsense. I think Shankland was a handball because I seen his arm. He tried to chest it, but it happened there. So to me, he's in motion, so that's a hand. So he knew that himself. So that was wrong. The goal was wrong because the goalkeeper flapped. Nobody touched the keeper. He just flapped. They done like a belly flapped and we scored and they never gave it for us. But the penalty, I was sitting right behind it and I thought it was a penalty. Looking back, I can see why they said it wasn't, but I thought Theo was silly sticking his foot out because I thought the guy lost control of the ball anyway. So I thought at the time it was a penalty, but looking back, you can see, well, maybe it wasn't. But I just feel Rangers as a club, along with other clubs, have to challenge us because there's only one club, and you might actually get some famous for other fans because I'm saying that's about Celtic, but there's always one club that gets all decisions. At this moment in time, it's same, but it's been happening for a long time now. But the other clubs have to come together and stop this saying it's Rangers gets the decisions, it's Rangers get that. It's not, and it's not just me. Even if they did get decisions on Saturday, they're probably still going to win the game anyway. But and as a collective, we have to come together and say, right, this isn't working for Scottish football. Let's see how we can fix it because The monopoly's only going one way. You see it with bookings, you see it with fouls, everything, and the rest just have to suffer. And others don't really mind as much because they'll hate us anyway. But if you want to improve Scottish football, you have to look at this in general over because it's not good enough.
Yeah, 100%. Well, like, I don't mind getting some comments from the other ones slagging because the more comments, the better. It helps the show out. So if you're watching, go ahead. Baz, what do you think of? So last 5 minutes here, mate. Just to let you just gotta have your last say. So where? Well, it's a probably easy question, but where would you like to see us go from here before we get to the Hibs match? What would you like to see done?
What I would like to see done and what's not going to be done is two very different realms. Russell Martin will be in charge for the Hibs game. I've absolutely no doubt about it. What I would like to see is that he's not in charge against Hibs, but that's obviously not going to happen. Listen, nothing would please me more than playing Hibs on Saturday and it just clicking, and the team having a really good day. But we talked about this earlier. What about the game after? And the game after that? You know, we could have a good game on Saturday, but are we going to do it away to Livingston? Are we going to do it away to Aberdeen? I just don't see that happening. So I'd like to see Rangers make the change. I think it was a good opportunity there after the Hearts game. I think it was an easy decision to make right across European football. Everybody would have went, right, that was the right decision. It's been poor. Get somebody in. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Certainly not before the Hibs game. And I don't even think if we lost against Hibs, the guy would go at the minute. I think that's just where the stance is. And I don't know. What do? You just have to wait and see what happens. You know, there's very little information comes out of ibrox these days. As you know, there's very, very little. And you don't really get a sense of what's going on. You know, people put stuff up and they say, oh, this has happened, there's been blue room meetings and there's been this and here, and they're trying to stoke up the support that believe that something's happening. But the reality is none of us know, and we won't know until the next couple of weeks. But there's one thing for sure, you know, the owners cannot continue to hear what have happened in Saturday, Scott. You know, that just can't be allowed to happen, where it's Russell Martin get out as soon as they can sing it, as soon as they get the first opportunity to sing it. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. But for me, and my final thought is just release him and let him into the wild and let him eat his vegan burger somewhere else, and you know, all that nonsense that comes with it. Just move on. Time to move on.
What about yourself, Scotty? Then, mate, as I say, like, well, as Barry says, there's, you know, people's making things out WhatsApp group, but that's what happens when you're silent on things and you leave a vacuum and people fill vacuums. That's just how it goes, and we've left that open. But a bit like yourself, what would you like to see done for Hibs? Suppose you're just something similar to Baz, like.
I think it's inevitable he will be sacked. I just don't know when. So I think it's probably better sooner rather than later. Going forward, listen, if we had the money and we had the clout, I would bring in Mourinho. I think he would get his all in shape, wouldn't he? Plus, it'd be interesting to watch his pressers. No, but I think domestically, I think that's kind of a long shot in fantasy. Domestically, listen, I was all in for McInnes before he went to Hearts. I'm a big Dennis McInnes fan. I think he'd have done. I know people say he rejected us before he did, but he also get advice from Walter Smith to reject us as well. So you look at that both ways. But if domestically wise, I would go with Robinson or something. I know a lot of Rangers fans will probably say, no. I just like to get this club back in a stable footing, to get us moving forward. Domestic, I think we have to just come down a couple of pegs and go for somebody who knows the league, somebody who knows the players, and then after that, take it from there. I'm fed up going for these managers. Or he's managed in England, he's managed in Belgium, he's managed here, and they've all turned out poor, to be fair. I know Gio got to his European final, but then he get a sack. Gerrard won his one league out of so many trophies, and then he shot off to Villa. And just go for somebody who appreciates being at a club, who's not going to come in and tell us all the nonsense, because that's not what Stevie Robinson does, and I think he's done really well with the clubs he's managed. A bit like Alan McLeish done before he came through the door to Rangers. Go for somebody who actually knows about Scottish football, get us back in a level, queue again domestically, and then we can look further forward, because I think that's what we're missing. And I know Robinson's name will you probably get no chance, but I don't know. I just feel we need to go for somebody who just knows the league and knows the club and knows what it's all about instead of this bamboozling us all with these tactics and systems and nonsense.
Yeah, for comments, Scotty. Like, at the end of the day, I've said it here a few times. I would see Stevie Robbins definitely as a Northern Ireland manager at some stage, probably after Michael O'Neill. I would think would be mad not to go for him as a Northern Ireland support anyway. And he couldn't do any worse. And well, he's already beaten Russell Morton in the league here for fuck's sake. The way it's looking, never with a St. Mirren side with Goggies in the defence who terrorizes us every time because we're that easy to play against, unfortunately. But that's just so that's us done for tonight. Thank you everyone for listening. Unfortunately, we don't want to come on here and be annoyed and talking this way. And I'm sure Scotty, you think you're on at 8:00 at night? He's on
8:30, but I'm not sure if I'll be on because obviously Gary's on me, Cameron and Scotty, but I've got my granddaughter here, and so I'll have to say it to my wife. So she's a boss, as you know. So if she says to me, no 2 pods in one night, plus we're going through a couple of things family wise, so probably maybe not going, but I'll see what happens. But we're on at 8:30 tonight. If there's anybody about it wants to listen,
so there you go. If you want more therapy, then go on to Scotty's channel, Not Another Rangers podcast at 8:30. And you might see Scotty, you might not. We'll see what happens there. And Baz, before you would go, mate, just to say goodbye to the ones watching.
Yeah, I appreciate anyone that's watching and has had to listen to our negativity all night. Would have been good counsellors tonight would put you into an early return to the grave, wouldn't it? Like fucking vapor, but we're Rangers fans. At the end of the day, we're on the podcast. We're talking about it. We're not hiding away. We're challenging the club as much as we can with our own voices and everybody that watches and put their comments in. And at the end of the day, let's hope that things change quickly. And that's all we can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's it. You just have to keep coming on and cheering on your team. And listen, things will become good again. That's the way it goes. Swings and roundabouts. I just wish it would happen a bit quicker than what it seems to be. It always seems to be a crawling pace for us, but it'll happen eventually. But hopefully the ones in charge make the big decisions. Look, they've took this club on, Rangers, and they want to be successful. They've told us where they want us to be and where they want us to get it to. So they're going to have to admit sometimes you make mistakes, and everybody does. So the quicker that they admit that they've made a bit of a balls here and get it rectified as quick as possible before everything does come too hot on them. But that's just the way it is at Rangers Football Club. So thank you everyone for listening. I might be with you on Friday. We'll see what happens if we can get someone on to the Ulster Bears pod. But if not, we'll be back on Monday, and hopefully we'll still be in the cup at that stage. Speak to you again soon.